Okay.
Sure, there's going to be some ongoing effort after these 3 days. Well, what that means, I have no idea. But uh, we have folks like Ann Arbor and Grand Rapids and some others that have done a lot. So there's a lot of good information out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, today, we get a chance. Low priority. Part of the thing, as is that they're discussing is building electrification. So I'd like to start the discussion and share some of what I learned.
It is pretty fascinating that they're pushing for all electric buildings. That was,
right.
20 years ago, that would have been taboo. It's like,
yeah, that's right. Times have changed.
Basically, Derek, the kind of the several incentives for moving towards these all electric buildings. Part of it's the rising efficiency of heat pumps. And there's also the issue of combustion gases, indoor air quality and things like that, and the fluctuation of natural gas prices. But it's just kind of intriguing because it's opens up some interesting challenges and opportunities. Should we get started and see if Roger tunes in? Actually, we've already kind of started. But yeah, I'm hoping Roger will be able to join us because of the discussion on EV and the research that he's done with that. Rob has been helpful in giving us some information about vehicles. Hey, Roger.
Howdy.
Just getting started here, and we've just got a couple things on our agenda. Thank you, Derek, for joining us and for being our cheerleader and reporter at the Township Board level. Your leadership has been really just breath of fresh air, and
well, hopefully the team's excited about some actual projects coming to fruition. So we got some money to do something next year. So again, I'm not one of those that talk something to death. It's like, we got the dollars, let's figure out what we're going to do and let's get her done. So
it's really exciting too to drive by the projects that have been completed and take a look at the sun shining on them. That's really uplifting.
One thing that's really great is that all three projects have been very visible, which means that it's obviously it sends a message to the community, but it also it sends a couple messages. Solar works, but it also sends a message that the township is doing a lot. So that's all good.
I think there's a few sort of loose ends. We want to find out what your questions are, Derek. There's been a lot of ideas that are generated, obviously, on this committee. Fortunately, most of them are seem fairly practical. It's not just a brainstorm list of everything we want to do to save the planet. But there, as you've seen in some of the number crunching, I think there's some broad agreement that the public the service center is a real logical choice for a focus this coming year. And but what are some of the issues that are on people's minds that we want to throw out there as we talk about getting started on 2021?
One of the questions that I was told somewhere along the line that potentially net metering was going to go away. You guys are closer to that issue. Is that a true statement? I mean, are we kind of something where we need to be doing something before the end of the year so we don't lose that advantage?
John's probably most in tune with the state policies, so I'm going to let him speak on that one.
Yeah, it's but with the consumer's energy, it's a moving target. One likely scenario is that net metering will be replaced by something called a distributed generation tariff, which means the outflow, the bill credit, could well be half of what we get now. So that obviously affects the economics of any project, depending on how much is exported to the grid and how much is used on site. Now that's what happened with DTE. DTE came into the commission earlier and got a distributed generation tariff approved, which is about half of the retail rate. So it obviously affects the economics, especially if you're got a pretty good sized PV system and you're exporting quite a bit over the course of the year. But what's happened also is that a number of interveners, including GLREA, have basically proposed to the commission that no, don't do anything now. We don't have enough data to do a value of solar study. And then, until that is done, continue the net metering as it is now, where the credit is at the retail rate. Now, that was actually recommended to the commission by the administrative law judge. But what makes it, I may be giving you more than you want to know. What makes it complicated is Consumers has reached their cap, their ceiling on new net metering projects. So I'm assuming that, for the two existing projects, that's already been taken care of. And so the township is grandfathered for the fire station and for the farmer's market for 10 years. But it would be an issue for any project next year, potentially. Now, what's happened though is Consumers is kind of blackmailing the commission, or trying to, and they're basically saying, well, we'll increase this cap and allow new interconnections if you approve the rate that we want, which is about half the retail rate. So it's I am right in assuming, right, the two existing projects were probably all set, right?
Yeah, the agreements are in place. I think they've all been executed.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe because we're pretty much using whatever capacity we're generating, maybe it isn't that big of an issue long-term for us, but okay. I just knew that was out there, and I didn't want us to, I didn't know if we needed to act within the next 2 weeks to get something submitted or not, but it sounds okay.
I was kind of assuming, because the projects, it sounds like this is true, the projects have been so far along now that would have, like you say, already been taken care of. And yeah, if we have a large 100 kilowatt plus system on the service center, right, they I assume that is mostly used on site, right? Or
Yeah.
Right. So that's I'll throw out one thing too, and this is just very speculative, I guess. I was at this, I've been involved with this training session by the Rocky Mountain Institute, and I found out about a new NREL software package called REOPT. And basically, the nice thing about this is that you can plug in your building and plug in the demand rate that you have for that building. And you can actually ask for it to give you a kind of an optimum PV system size and also an optimum battery size, which is kind of surprising. Our previous discussions, although Roger knows more about batteries than I do, we've kind of talked about, well, probably batteries aren't a good option right now. Maybe it will be down the road. It's something we should kind of keep track of and keep talking about. So I tried to do this analysis this morning and couldn't do it. So I got to go through a tutorial. But once I kind of do this analysis, I'll kind of share it with everybody. And again, it's additional information that might or might not be helpful. So.
Sure. Well, and it sounds like if the net metering becomes less attractive, then that's going to make, I guess, battery storage more attractive for the generator, I guess, keep your own juice and use it instead of buying it and sending it to the grid.
Do you need demand rates for the service center, John, to make that calculation, or do you have that data already?
Well, I think, and Derek can confirm this. There's this basic commercial demand rate, and I know the Township Hall is on that rate, would all of the buildings that are on the demand rate probably be on that, whatever they call a general service demand rate?
I guess I want Leroy to pull our bill and confirm that, because I know we have tried to manipulate that over time to our advantage, and yeah, I don't know where it's currently set.
Well, that's, well, this is, I mean, and the nice thing about this software program, right, it's free. That's really nice.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it'll be easy to go in and, oh, I'll change this, change that, and just do another run. You can put in more data and have a more sophisticated answer. So I'll play around with it, and hopefully it'll be helpful to us. But yeah, Leroy, if you could, at your leisure, you know, figure out what kind of rates we're on. That would
Yeah,
be-
I think the rate is probably similar. I think it's what they base your peak on. And we've found a little bit of discrepancy that they weren't adjusting the peak. They should, I think they're supposed to do it annually, but some buildings were set at a higher peak, and I haven't checked closely enough. By the way, I was on a workshop with Maui this morning, the Michigan Association for Utility Issues that we're a member of, and on benchmarking. And there might be some people there that could assist us with benchmarking on our buildings, which I think we'll see more and more importance as we try and track our savings. But they may also be helpful in lobbying for policies that are supportive of net metering at good rates. Anyway.
Yeah, and I would say that's probably where I actually heard it from, was the last Maui meeting or so.
Oh.
Net metering potentially going away. They're pretty good about keeping an eye on consumers and what they're doing with their tariffs and things.
Oh, great. I'm glad you were able to.
Yeah, there's some value in that membership for sure.
Hey, Derek, do you expect, I think Leroy mentioned that there was talk of just extending the contract with Absolute Solar to do the project next year. Is that likely?
Well, that's kind of why I attended today, to see if this group thought that truly was a viable option. What we may want to do, and I don't know if one of the owners is on here or not, but potentially talk about or negotiating maybe a reduction or somewhere along the kilowatt per hour price or something like that. Just instead of just a straight across the board extension, but I'm looking for ways to fast track it essentially. I mean, I think if this group's on board with the service center, that's what I'm looking at doing, is getting some units up on the roof there, and figuring out a way to get it done come spring, and get these panels ordered and get them going. So,
well, I'm certainly supportive of that, and I think you're right. You might be able to negotiate a deal with them, just because obviously if they don't have to compete, that's worth a lot. The other thing, and I don't know how it gets back to the battery thing, which I don't think is likely now, but if the township goes ahead with Absolute Solar and they don't have to put a lot of effort into a new proposal, you may want to explore with them whether they have the capability to look at what were the economics of a battery option. Not that you would want to necessarily do that, but they may have either themselves or allies that could actually kind of do an analysis to give us a sense whether that makes any sense at all. And see, I don't think many people would do it in response to an RFP, because I think it's too much work. But if you're kind of saying, well, you're going to get this contract if you give us a good price, and by the way, could you maybe kind of look at this? That might be, who knows? It doesn't hurt to ask, right?
right,
John,
absolutely.
a couple things about batteries, John. One is if the new site that you found has the capability of battery considerations for sizing a system, it seems like that'd be worthwhile taking a look at. I know the Consumers Energy figures that adding battery storage to a solar system is going to add about maybe 25–30% to the price. But in the long run, that might be worth considering, especially if net metering becomes a challenge this next year. And I know that the first crew that Absolute Solar partnered with the folks that did the Township Hall. CBS Solar does do batteries. They're a Tesla dealer, and they install Tesla Powerwalls as part of their operations if the customers require it or need it.
Yeah.
It would seem that that building energy management too might have come into play if we're talking about reducing our peak loads. I know Rob's a little bit more in tune to that, but I know you may as well be, Derek. But if we
Yeah,
don't
the
turn,
service center is pretty good actually, as far as, automatic switches and things of that nature. They changed out light fixtures a while ago, so it's been kind of an easier building for us to do because it's internally our building. So we just make it happen instead of working with some of the other different end users. So, to me, it makes sense to do that as our next site. It won't be as visible as the previous two, but I like the idea of doing a larger project on that roof next year. And then I'd like to actually pivot back to maybe looking at the carports for town hall and the public safety building and figure out how to split that out so they're tied to the right meter, and we're getting the usage out of those. So that's longer range. I try to think in some years versus days and weeks. So that's kind of where I'm looking at.
Hey, Derek, could you explain too, it sounds like the roof at the service center is okay for this sort of installation, but there's issues with public safety and the township hall with doing something on the roof?
It tends to be just an access issue, really. The town hall wouldn't be as bad, but the public safety building, there's just that additional layer of security concerns that they have. That's why I really like the analysis that was done looking at the carports. It looks like by doing those, we might be able to generate pretty close to 100% for both of the buildings. So I think that's a great option. It provides actually multiple benefits, shades the cars, keeps the snow off them in the winter, allows us to have a nice visible project too for the people. So.
Yeah, I like the carport idea. I think that's a good move for the phase after the service center.
Rob had mentioned a carport or like a electric vehicle charging at the market might also be an appealing location. Again, this can be further down the road, no pun intended, but potentially something also to consider.
Mm-hmm. I know there is one at the Studio C, right? I believe there's one. So there is one in fairly close proximity to the farmer's market. It's not directly there, but at least there's one in that area. And then I see some additional maybe charging stations. If we do the carports, it just makes sense that we would have one or two tied into that project too.
That'd be great.
Any other questions about solar this coming year or sort of next steps for that before we move on to sort of EV charging or EV vehicles, electric vehicles? That was the other item on our agenda. But should we put together sort of, it's not so much an RFP, but just kind of we talked about little things where we could potentially bargain with Absolute that might include a battery evaluation, maybe a reduced cost per kilowatt. I don't know what that would that be, like an RFP or a what do you call that?
Well, probably how I would approach it, Leroy, is we would probably just set up a Zoom meeting with them and just have a simple conversation with them and say, number one, this is what we're potentially looking at doing, and do you have interest? And if so, here's what we as the end user would like to see, and we would just lay out those things, and they'll either tell us that it's something that they'd be interested in, or we'll just go back to a traditional RFP. But I think it's worth having that initial conversation with them to see if we can't speed up the process.
Sounds good. Are you comfortable doing that in January, or do you want to get on it sooner? There, I know Rob said they were looking forward to the end of the year because they're on such a tight timeline with construction right now.
I think January is okay. January, early February, that kind of thing. You know, I got a little more comfort level here with the net metering conversation we had. And again, with the service center, we're going to be consuming everything we generate there, it looks like. And if not, then we'll talk about the batteries options. So
That'd be a good time for Absolute too. I know they're super busy right now, wrapping stuff up at the end of the year, and things will lighten up for them, at least construction-wise, in January, February.
sure. And we wanted an attractive time for them. So we want them in a good mood.
There you go.
Yes, they'll be flush.
Sounds good. Anything else on 2021 solar? We talk about EVs for a few minutes. Do you have time to join us for that part of the conversation, Derek?
Sure, sure.
Joanne and Heidi, are you good with this moving on, or any other remaining topics related to the panels? Do we need a roof evaluation? I mean, I suppose Absolute will do that. And is there a backup option if there's issues with the roof? We can cross that bridge when we come to it, I suppose.
I think so. I mean, it's a industrial building. I don't know why there would be an issue offhand, and I guess we'll just have to work with Absolute on some of those questions.
Okay.
So they know what it takes to ballast the solar panels on a flat roof and what the weights are involved and how the loads work. So they'll know what to do there.
Well, Roger, thanks for your little research here. At our last meeting, we talked about the possibility of just doing some rough calculations of what it would take to electrify one or more vehicles. And I know we think about purchasing it a year or two in advance and how we might get started and maybe include some goals in our climate action plan for electrification of our fleet. But Roger, do you want to give a quick snapshot of what your dream vision is here and what some of the research you've done?
Yeah, well, it turns out I actually went back and read our climate sustainability plan, and it turns out we already have goals and strategies with regard to electric vehicles in our transportation section.
What foresight?
Yeah, it's amazing. And they're significant. I mean, it makes a commitment. It doesn't have a date commitment specifically in the transportation section like it does in the electrical use of renewable energy for the township section, but it definitely says decrease the use of petroleum in the township vehicle fleet, and one of the strategies is use electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles wherever possible. So I don't necessarily think we need to put a date to that for a commitment in the transportation section, but we certainly have the support within the sustainability plan to consider the possibility of buying some EVs in the township fleet as part of their regular rotation. And as I mentioned last time, the full electric makes a lot of sense for the township simply because it's unlikely that a township use, at least not public safety, but other uses within the township, wouldn't exceed the limits that electric vehicles have for their range in a single charge, which would mean nighttime charging or even daytime charging for electric vehicles in the fleet. And one of the things that's driving my interest in this is that I'm aware of the fact that within the next 2 years, 2021 and 2022, there's going to be a huge variety of new electric vehicles come on the market. It's amazing what commitments the manufacturers are making to this. We're going to have electric pickup trucks. We're going to have electric medium-sized SUVs, electric small SUVs, and a number of full electric utility vehicles for delivery type services. So the market's going to be there. They're going to be available. I don't know what's going to happen with the tax credits right now for electric vehicles. That's, of course, up in the air and dependent on the new federal agencies and decisions that are made. But at least the market's going to be there. And then, of course, as I mentioned last time, the limiting factor right now in the township is that we need charging stations. So as part of our overall commitment, it might be wise to begin thinking about that. As Derek mentioned a few minutes ago, the idea of installing some charging stations associated with the carports in the next phase of our solar work could make a lot of sense. It might make a really big difference. And even in the service center right now, if we're putting up solar panels, we might want to consider a dual charging station over there for upcoming electric vehicles. So I updated my electric vehicle one pager and sent that out yesterday. I just tied it back into the sustainability plan and noted that some of the costs that are involved in installing a dual charging station facility, so to speak. So I think the options are there. I think that it's an up and coming thing. Within a couple of years, we'll have a lot of options for vehicles, and the timing seems to be just right for helping our transportation fleet potentially dramatically reduce its petroleum use, and also potentially reduce its cost, because electric vehicles are so much less expensive to operate than internal combustion engine vehicles. So I'm willing to pursue this. If folks have further questions about data that we might want to produce or look at or consider. I don't have a follow-up from Rob on specifically which light duty vehicles we currently use in the township, but I could certainly do that and run some calculations if that was a next step. So that's kind of where I was thinking right now. And if there's anything else that we should add to this or consider it at this point, I'd be happy to work on that.
Thanks, Roger.
Comment I would make is, Ford has helped driving this. Ford pretty much has the market on police interceptor utility vehicles nationwide. I mean, if you look at police department, that's pretty much what people are driving. Ford Explorer is what it is. And they are really pushing, a lot of the hybrid electric vehicles. And because of that, I think we are going to have a lot of opportunities to move in that direction. Currently, what we do is pretty much every year we buy 3 of these, what we call the Ford Interceptors for the police department. And then 3 come out of the fleet and then get recycled to other departments. So like inspections, community development. So we get some more additional hours and miles out of them. And I can see us definitely moving towards the hybrid that's been coming out. One of the things we need to do is maybe some backgrounds on some other cities, villages, and townships that are currently using them. Make sure we can create a comfort level for our police chief and the police department and those officers to know that these are going to be reliable vehicles, that other agencies are using them, they're not having problems, because that's a group that reliability is critical in their minds, and we got to make sure that these vehicles perform the same. But once they're in the fleet and it's a proven commodity, quickly our fleet would move in that direction, just because of how we purchase vehicles and then reallocate them in our fleet itself. And then again, Ford's coming out now with the new F-150 pickup truck, which again, we purchase our vehicles a lot through state purchasing program, and Ford just year after year seems to have the best pricing. So that's why you see so many governmental fleets use Ford products. And as Ford's moving in the electric hybrid area, you're just going to see more and more of them showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ford's going to have trouble keeping those F-150 electric trucks in stock. They're going to be super popular with places like Meridian Township. they're just going to be ideal for the service fleets that, like I use the parks a lot and I see the Ford trucks a lot driving around, picking up trash and doing the work. And I think, whoa, there's an electric truck. That's perfect.
Hey, Derek, it sounds like if we can track down some experiences from other local governments, especially in the area, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. I know some of the bigger cities are the ones that have, of course, they purchase 300 or 400 vehicles, constantly each year. But if we can find some of the smaller players, absolutely, that information I think would help sell these hybrids to the police department, the end users.
Well,
Leroy, and we initiated some every couple months or so, or every 3 months, kind of dialogue with other communities in the greater Lansing area. And that's something we can ask them about, see if we can track down, especially anybody local, but also we can reach out as we work with other local governments in Michigan to kind of see if what their experience has been. That, we'll pursue that. I don't see why not.
Andy Kilpatrick with the city of Lansing, you might have heard, is they're doing a study on a couple of the interceptors this year that they just purchased. I'm not sure how much experience they have so far, but they obviously probably did some research as well. I can check with Andy unless you run into him in other circles, Derek.
I really don't. So if you got an into it and they're already got a study underway, yeah, I'd like to review it. So that's the same boat, right? You don't want to switch your fleet out and then all of a sudden have a bunch of egg on your face. So it's
yeah, you want to be number 2 or number 3. You don't want to be number 1, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be on the way to a situation and your vehicle fails, because you got a lot of questions to answer to the community. Yeah.
It would seem like that there's some performance improvements that are potential with electric vehicles, not just in fuel efficiency, but get up and go. That might be attractive to the police folk.
I'm sure Ford is attracting this too, because they're making a big commitment to their interceptors that are hybrids, and they're not going to want to sell a vehicle that isn't just really, really reliable to public safety. So Ford's probably paying attention to that too.
Absolutely, yeah. They don't want to lose the market share that they've worked so hard to establish.
For sure.
Okay.
Especially with the other manufacturers coming on, Ram and Chevy are all going hybrid, so and electric. So yep.
So, Derek, you talk to Rob pretty regularly. I know he's got his hands full with a lot of stuff, but what was the figure that you were looking for, Roger, to do the little number crunching in terms of how much juice we would need to power?
Well, the only thing I have from Rob so far is just a total for the light duty vehicles. And I'd be interested in knowing what the breakdown is. Like, which ones are the recycled police interceptors, which ones are pickup trucks, which ones are little SUVs. Like, what does the township have? So if I had a list of the specific vehicles, that'd be great. That would help. Because I can calculate a kilowatt hour usage for each one of them if they were ultimately an electrification of the fleet.
Do we have any granular data, like how many miles average per vehicle or per fleet or per type, Derek, do you know?
Well, I know we definitely can get you the inventory breakdown. Our OMS software basically tracks that. I'm sure there is a report where you could pull in what is the vehicle's mile usage. Pulling it out might be a little more. I'm not intimate enough with the software program to know, but it does have pretty complex reporting features. But if Rogers is looking for, is it a Ford Explorer in the community development department? We have that information.
That'd be a good place to start.
Awesome. Is it cool if Roger just talks to Rob directly?
Yeah, it sounds like they've already started a conversation, or?
Yeah, we exchanged emails just to begin with, so.
Okay, all right. Yeah, if you need anything, feel free to copy me. As I tell everyone here, a carbon copy costs 0 cents and allows people to, keep the conversation flowing sometimes.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for all your support, Derek, with the energy team. And it's just really a pleasure to have experts like Heidi and John, Roger, and interested folks, citizens like Joanne on this team. Joanne's an expert in other areas. I'm just not exactly sure all of her expertise.
Well, that's what I really appreciate about these groups is you folks really are the experts in these areas. I don't have enough bandwidth to be expert in everything, but I do love bringing projects, bringing them to the community. And, we're fortunate we have a board that has made this a priority. So it allows us to really all work together and make these things happen. So I do appreciate everyone's dedication and volunteerism to these groups.
Yeah, I noticed in the action plan for from the township board for next year, number 2 on the list was the solar projects. I thought that was interesting, and the 100% goal.
Yeah, I actually had to explain a little that because they wanted some true metrics. So somewhere in this material that this group put together, it looked like we needed our own close to like $300,000 or 300,000 kilowatts of our own generation on site. So that's kind of what I used as our goal as far as building solar panels here in the community, and then explained away how the sustainability plans talks about purchasing renewable credits and then also efficiencies to get to that 100%. So I pick up enough to, I think, explain things away. And, but that's where we come up with, if we can do this, what I'd like to do is get about 120 kilowatts on the service center, and that gets us up to 180. So that's, if our target's 300, then we're 60% there, which is pretty remarkable.
It would be cool to have a chart on that that monitor that shows, like, it's kind of a gamification thing where you say we've reached this much, we're trying to get to here. Yeah.
Well, one thing I know too from just interacting with other local governments in Michigan and just reading about stuff is that there's a lot of communities that have established a goal of 100% for their government operations for electricity in particular, and very few of them are moving as quickly as we are. Of course, we have the advantage of being smaller and more nimble, I think, than some of the bigger local governments. But so I think we're doing very good compared to our peers.
Just for the gee whiz file too, the city of East Lansing, the wastewater treatment plant, or the water reuse and reclamation facility, as they call it, the WRF. We're a partner with them. We don't own the plant like we do the East Lansing Meridian water treatment plant, but we're a partner contractually with them. This is where all our waste goes. When we flush the toilet, it all ends up in the city of East Lansing. MSU is also a partner at the WRF plant, and they are evaluating, as part of our substantial upgrades that we've been doing, putting in a solar panel too. So I just saw that come across. So it must be the peer pressure we're putting on our regional members that they're all looking to do similar projects too. So.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that happens in neighborhoods is, like it tends to congregate together. There's some keeping up with the Joneses. Yep.
And I did the report there from Grand Rapids. It was good to see that one of their facilities now is doing a system. I think it's their water treatment plant. We can have some additional discussions with Elmswa and that authority board to talk about, is it now the time, is consumers ready to look at doing some type of system there too? So lots of potential.
Yeah, Derek, I found out some more information about that, and that was because the Grand Rapids, the water treatment plant, it's actually not the regulated utility, it's the parent company, CMS, which has a deregulated subsidiary that's actually doing the project.
Okay.
Which is, so, if you contact Consumers Energy, they should know about it, but if they don't, it's because the parent company is actually doing the project and not the actual utility people. But still, that doesn't mean it's not a good approach. The other thing I found that surprised me, because most of these PPAs are basically you're buying the power from them on a kilowatt hour basis. Apparently Grand Rapids decided to go with a monthly lease, and so they're paying CMS a flat amount per month. And I'm not sure if that's a better approach or not. I guess it might just depend on who the local government is. But, you know, all these PPAs I've heard of have always been the idea, you know, you give us 1 million kilowatt hours and we'll charge you whatever for those. But this one is more like maybe a traditional lease that local governments do, where you have a piece of equipment and you basically pay a monthly charge, which I guess is obviously it's an option. I'm not sure about pros and cons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they may have more capacity, being the city of Grand Rapids, to manage something like that, you know, and
Yeah.
And then my understanding is MSU is still moving forward with their solar project, which will be sited in the township, but I don't have many more details other than that. And that's going to be tied into their own electric grid.
Right.
It'd be a big project. Wow.
Yeah, we were hoping that maybe we could have piggybacked off that, but because it's not the same grid, it didn't seem to be an option for us.
Part of our calculations for 100% solar include a fairly aggressive conservation goal, energy efficiency goal, and we do need to update our baseline figures. It's one of the reasons why I'm kind of looking for some help with benchmarking. And let's see. Anyway, on that note, we are pursuing a bid right now on LED lighting with our for our public safety building, but we may want to be looking at some additional energy efficiency improvements as we sort of seek to ways that we can achieve that 30% goal, and just keep that conversation going, because that's equal to the solar contribution that we're searching for. And conservation typically is a faster payback, but it gets a little more complex than just adding panels.
And I'm kind of assuming that, you know, all the work that Derek, you've done on the township hall with the HVAC and stuff will save a lot of energy, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I don't have any hard numbers yet on that, but yeah, absolutely. And then as Leroy talked about the public safety building, which pretty much is a 24/7 operation, hopefully we'll get a substantial, you know, credit out of that too.
Point. If we count up all the gas savings from these Zoom meetings, I think we'll also get a fairly large carbon
Oh, yeah.
bounty. Maybe Heidi, you crunch numbers regularly. Maybe you can help with this.
Good point though, Leroy. We do need to, you know, spend some time and energy tightening up that where are we on our efficiency, you know, goals in regards to that. So we're cracking the whip on building these panels. We need to look at the other legs of the stool to make sure we're hitting those marks.
I like what Roger said about the idea of Heidi mentioned the idea of like a ruler or a measurement. Just show where we are on our goal, and then potentially on our efficiency savings.
Yep.
Anything?
3 bars for each one and kind of show where we're at.
That sounds good. Anything else that's on people's mind they want to cover? We've covered a lot of ground in 45 minutes. Going once. Thanks, everybody. I'll try and type up a summary. And if you think of anything else you want to share, you can put that in the email or the CC. Thanks again, Derek.
When's our
Yeah,
next?
absolutely. Thank you, everybody. We do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, next meeting.
Next meeting, yeah.
Should we decide that now?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let me grab my calendar. But if we look at our normal third Thursday in January, would that make sense for people?
Yep.
Do we want to combine that with to see if we can get Absolute tuned into that and maybe have the first 15 minutes sort of clarifying what we talked about today with them? Or do we want to keep that separate?
Well, I
That
think-
should be earlier in the month with them, just to catch them before things get busy again.
Yeah, I'd probably keep it separate. I'd, might make sense.
Is third Thursday at 11 good for everybody for our meeting?
Sure.
Yep.
Yes.
Do you want to go with the second Thursday for just throwing it out there to possibly meet with Absolute for a half hour or so?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So are we talking about the 14th and the 21st?
I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I'm just throwing these.
Yeah, that's, yep, 14th and 21st.
Okay. Are we talking about 11 o'clock again, or?
Yeah, if that works for people. Derek, I guess you don't have to be involved with both of them, but I'm sure you want to be there on the 14th. Or does that work for you?
Don't know if he heard.
The 14th is a Monday, and typically we have our management team meeting at 10.
It's actually a Thursday. Maybe you're on the wrong year Or-
January, that'll help.
or a month. Yeah.
Yeah, that's far enough out that there's nothing yet, so. Yeah,
Okay.
knows the drill. He just looks at my calendar, and if there's a vacancy, pop it in there.
All right. Thanks, Derek. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Thursday.
Yep, thanks. Good job, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy holidays if we don't talk to any of you guys. Yep.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe and well.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Everybody, good try.
Oh, Derek, did you want to keep talking a little bit about the media plan, or do you want to do that another time? I'm flexible.
Bye.
It's up to you. I mean, if we want to stay online and talk about that, that's fine. Do you have something to send me, or?
I do. I can let's see. I can probably pull it up on my screen. There's just give a kind of a quick overview of kind of what's on my mind, if you like.
Sure.
And pull it up on my screen here.
Each one of those quarters, someone's going to get a spring bill, summer bill, fall bill, and a winter bill. That there's always something going in there from Public Works.
We don't have a specific plan now. I mean,
Okay.
I think we helped popularize that concept of using the utility bill, and then it kind of got with the election and with kind of the online billing and things like that. I think the treasurer saw some opportunities. I don't know what the current plan is, so
I'm just,
we can check it out. Let's check it
I'm
out.
just trying to figure out a way to make this easy for everybody. And I'm wondering if we don't, maybe the easiest thing is to develop essentially a spring, summer, fall, winter Public Works brochure. Basically an 8.5 by 11 paper that's a trifold, right? And that allows us to put multiple topics on that brochure, and that essentially gets sent out to everybody with those topics on it. And then that way our checklist can say, well, if you got a spring bill, we talked about scoop and poop. We talked about, don't over fertilize. We talked about whatever those topics are. And that way we can guarantee with some certainty that these are the things. And it allows us then to talk about some of the things we've talked about too, like whose responsibility is on my water service, my sanitary, lead, those kinds of things. So it really becomes a Public Works centric brochure, but it allows us to hit all of these topics. And the reality is it's a water and sewer bill. So if we need to be in there, that's fine. And if the clerk's office wants to add something, that's fine too. They can pay the additional postage, but that's how I would approach it. And, when we're setting this up, we can send that brochure to the communications department and say, here's our spring brochure. You can run with the topics you want. We can flesh out some that you want to, but this is what we're going to cover. So that way it's, it allows us to hit all of those things that we need to talk about, and there's enough people are interested in Public Works because that's what impacts them. Like what do I do if I have a sewer backup? We can have a little square in there to talk about that. Before you call a plumber, call the emergency number, let us investigate, that kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, that would be probably the best way to handle all of these topics. And then each year they can just be reviewed and tweaked, versus trying to create an entire press release on, energy, climate resilience. I mean, we always can do those things. It's just, in my mind, it might allow you a little ease of mind to know that, okay, well, at least we got something out on these topics to everybody,
Mm. Yeah, I like that idea a lot. So what I'm willing to do is just sort of maybe sort of look at it seasonally, topics, and
Yeah.
um,
And a lot
starts
of
filling
those
in the
little,
gaps. Go ahead.
yeah, and a lot of those little blurbs can just refer back to the website too. I'm a big proponent of, like, when people comment on Facebook and they want us to spend an extra time doing some diatribe explanation, I'm like, just give them the link to the website. We've already done it once. Drive them back to that resource, we can talk a little bit about, don't pour grease down your sink, and here's why, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. But if you're interested in more, here's how you get back to the website to actually show those, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that.
I'd like to be able to say, hey, we're the local road plan 2021. It can be 1 or 2 sentences with a, background of a resurfaced road saying, here's the link to the website for the map, So I just think that we may need to create our own brochure and get these topics out there for folks.
Mhm. Okay, well, that makes
Does that
sense.
make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
and don't feel you have to create all this on your own. I mean, obviously lean on, subject matter experts and things. So
That sounds good. I put this little list of media destinations together this morning, just looking at what are sort of the receptacles of information, and utility inserts or the brochure
yeah, I
makes a
think
lot of sense and helps us organize the whole.
you're right. And even if it costs an extra nickel to put in this trifold, to me, there's value there for the public. And not everyone does get a water and sewer bill in the township, and we gotta recognize that. But maybe then we do some direct mailings or something to those people.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's worth spending $10,000 a year. I probably wouldn't even be that, because the majority of our township, it's just that eastern fifth of the township that doesn't get a bill,
Mm-hmm.
Or again, it's just the website links to the public works. Brochure that we put together, and we can have all 4 seasons up on the website too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I do want to just mention this other concept, this Green Neighbor Network, which came up at some of our Wednesday morning dialogues. There's interest in getting this type of information out to neighborhoods and have them post that on their neighborhood websites and their social media sites, and identifying people that would be kind of receive that information, kind of like who signs up for the Green Gazette, but this would be specific people that would be expected to share information within their neighborhoods, and they could also help identify issues that they want more information out about, or topics that are specific interest. So anyway,
I know. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. That's one of the things why when we hired Amber, we said, you know what, we need some additional connectivity to our neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's how we get this information to those neighborhoods that aren't on, like the Wellington Estates, they're not on public sewer, but I'm assuming they have a neighborhood association, So with Amber and her neighborhoods portion of her title, that was one of the things we wanted her to do, is try to create some additional connectivity. The police department has their neighborhood group, but they tend to be pretty protective of that, and they try to focus more on police matters.
Mm-hmm.
There's more opportunity for more general township sharing information, so that's why I think, Amber might be someone it's worth having a conversation with in regards to this, but also, kind of what we're talking about. Because she's going to have to start creating those connections too. And who are those neighborhood leaders that she needs to, be in contact with? So.
Mhm. She did come and speak to the Environmental Commission, and I think there's definitely interest. One of the challenges is that the neighborhood presidents are often getting bombarded with info, and they may not be the person. I would definitely agree with you. There's synergy, and those neighborhood presidents that she's beginning to identify and update her list can be helpful in getting this information out. And the green neighbor might be the president, or it might be someone else who's just got that interest.
Sure.
But the presidents change pretty regularly too. So we thought the green neighbors might offer a little bit more consistency. Anyway, I think we're on the same page with that. There's these other sort of forms of information and outreach opportunities that come up. And I think the brochure idea will be a great way to sort of tie this together. So.
Yeah, and I know, we have through our MS4 permit, we have the public education plan, and there are certain stormwater topics that we're supposed to be disseminating and tracking and all that. So that just, if we can create that brochure and have maybe one third of the, brochure is all about stormwater, we can tell the state that, hey, we got this information out there directly. They got it in their hands. They opened their water bill, they got this information.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thanks for listening. I think I've got some ideas of next steps here, and starting to flesh out sort of a seasonal brochure. And then maybe we could talk to Phil about kind of a schedule, timing of when we need to do the development and the printing and that type of thing. And go from there.
Okay, sounds good.
Hey, thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Mr. Devlin.